We have a Skirk Escoffier rerun incoming. Now, I don't have Escoffier, so I won't really comment on her. But the big question, of course, is, should you get Skirk? I might have a controversial opinion coming in thick and fast because I'm going to say no. This is coming, of course, from someone who doesn't have Escoffier, so I don't have any first-hand experience playing the Skirk team with Escoffier, Shenhe, or literally any other Cryo or Hydra character, and Farina. I'm sure my opinion on Skirk will improve insofar as I'd have a stronger team that lets Skirk do more damage, but the problem with Skirk at the present moment isn't to do with the damage that she does, it is at the end of the day that she is just so hardwired to basically only have one single team. I mean, yeah, if you're playing her in something like Imaginarium Theatre and you have enough buffs, you're absolutely perfectly fine playing some kind of weird Superconduct and Freeze team with, let's say, the illustrious Yaimiko the Wise and Beautiful. Look, I've done that myself. But it's really to do with her stacking mechanic in her A4 passive, where essentially not having just one character being Hydra or Cryo immediately makes her damage go from 170% total down to 120% total. So you're basically experiencing a 30% DPS drop, hence why it's seemingly so important that Skirk keeps the team as a pure mono freeze team. Except that's not entirely true either. Look, I've shown in the past that with a well-invested Shilinen, or hell, even Iansan, who is probably the most hilarious option in that Skirk's movement can actually very easily maintain that Night Soul meter, you can actually outperform other random defensive cryo options for the most part. But the moment I get Escoffier, it's even more of a lock for what kind of team you're going to be playing with Skirk, as both her and Escoffier have that kind of restriction going against them. So if you do decide to not actually play to that restriction, you will be affecting both of them. You will be seeing a significantly bigger DPS reduction. So I don't even think it's worth considering playing alternative, not mono-freeze teams with Skirk and Escoffier. Now, you might be thinking that this has been the case with other on-fielders that have come after her, but I don't think that is the case, because Flynn's just wants Luna charged, i.e. with at least one Hydra character on the team. Having a Nefer is ideal for the team DPS, but after that, you could bring a Pyro character like Durin, for example, if you want to play some overvape shenanigans. That should be a-okay, I think. I don't have Flynn, so feel free to correct me if you want. Nefer, on the other hand, just wants Luna Bloom, i.e., one Hydra character on the team. Having Lauma is ideal for the team DPS, but having someone like Nahida or Sucrose, in fact, would also be ideal for that team DPS. In my experience, though, my severely invested Yaimiko is, of course, another perfectly fine option to play in a quick, not Bloom team that is not too far off from the DPS of my usual Nefer team, so, it's just something you can consider. On-field Columbina mainly exists, in my opinion, in a Bloom team, so I guess there aren't that many variations, but you can still play around with characters that aren't just Hydra or Dendro in this kind of team concept. And finally, there's Zabai. She only just wants Luna Crystallized, i.e. plus one Hydra character on the team. Benefa actually works for her somehow. I guess other Electro-Charge alternatives would work, but otherwise you can't really do too much with Zabai. Despite all of that, is Skirk fun to play at least? Well, I'd say she is, in that her kit isn't as brain dead as some might have you believe. For the most part, she's a normal attack spammer with her special mode, but sometimes she can really mix up her rotation even if it's not necessarily ideal to use her ultimate. Plus, Skirk is the second character after Mawika to not have an energy pool, so building her is at least one step easier than usual. Some of us even are quick swap Skirk players, in which case you only use her ult and you move on. Plus, her movement seems fluid enough that you can actually get around the map a lot, so I do like that. And you can choose to increase her on-field time by absorbing those void rifts that spawn around you when you trigger cryo reactions not called melt. So you're not exactly locked into a hyper-specific rotation. You can really mess around if you want, and I do appreciate being able to do so. Oh, and speaking of those void rifts, if you want to use Skirk's burst, her actual burst, but you don't have any of her special energy, you do need to absorb at least one of those void rifts with her hold skill before you can immediately pop her burst. But in things like Spiral Abyss, you can instead use her hold skill near the end of a chamber if you know for a fact you can beat it without necessarily using Skirk's DPS. That way you can hold onto her special energy for the next chamber. That is in fact a pretty solid special tactic. Skirk was, and to some extent still is, a very hyped character. She hasn't been forgotten in the story. You can actually interact with her and story of all people in her anecdote in Not Cry, so that is actually pretty interesting. So if you really like her, be it because of her personality, her relationship with Child, Certology the Fowl and the Whale, or what she represents as the third playable character not from Teyvat after of course the Traveler and Aloy, then I suppose that'll be a strong enough reason to get her anyway. Because once we get into the usual things in these kinds of videos, I'll be saying something that I don't think I've ever said in these Should You Get videos that'll really highlight why I don't think it's a good idea to get Skirk at the present moment. It's just that at the end of the day, even if she is fun to play, I haven't really had that much opportunity to actually play her amongst the other characters that I've been playing with. Hell, I think I've been playing more Aloy than I've been playing Skirk, and I have not been playing Aloy all that much lately either. But I think that'll do it for my opinion on Skirk. We'll get right into the usual things that we talk about in this video. So before we continue, don't forget to like the video and subscribe to the channel for more Genshin Impact action, and feel free to ring that bell icon so you can get notifications of the latest content that I post. Now, let's start off with one of our big usual things. What's new for Skirk? Nothing. Seriously. The KQM Skirk Quick Guide is updated for version 5.7, which is when she was released, and it is basically up to date. That's how little has happened for Skirk since her release. Hell, Mona got Hexarray buffs in the time between then and now. But because there weren't any other Hydro or Cryo Hexarray characters, she literally can't even use them without bricking a Skirk team. So even that is not something that is new for Skirk. Okay, fine, there's Ino, but exclusively as some Hydro app. Her kit doesn't do anything for Skirk, neither do her constellations that give Skirk EM and Lunar damage. The problem is, as of today, we don't have any Lunar Freeze. We only have Lunar Charge and Crystallize and Bloom. So we don't have Lunar Swirl, no Lunar Freeze, and no Lunar Vape. So until a Lunar Freeze shows up, if it ever shows up, which is kind of odd since, you know, Frost Moon, neither Ino nor Columbina are all that useful for Skirk. Okay, fine, there is TDDS Columbina, that's a thing that works as well, but oh my god, you are going to be wasting such a perfectly good Columbina. Just play Barbara or Kokomi, you schmuck. What is wrong with you? When it comes to teams, like I mentioned, there's only one real team, and that's with ideally Escoffier, Shenhe, Sitlali, Yelan, Layla, or someone else that I haven't thought about, like Dahlia, and of course Farina or Yelan. If you're like me, you don't have Escoffier, I found the Layla, Shenhe, Yelan experience to actually be pretty good. Alternatively, the Charlotte or Mika, Shenhe and Farina team has otherwise been my go-to for the time being. Now, Mika does make Skirk a lot more fun to play with that attack speed, make no mistake, but Charlotte is a stronger healer and she can do some off-field cryo hits, so if you're playing with Shenhe, I feel like Charlotte is the way to go, because she can actually take advantage of the quills to at least do something. So at that point, I've actually built Charlotte on like some kind of a DPS build, at least so that those quills can actually do a fair bit more DPS. And like I mentioned, C2 Shilinen and Yansun instead of the defensive slot, that works as well, provided of course you're not replacing Escoffier. Oh, and for the quick swappers amongst us, all 10 of you guys spread across the world, I haven't seen anyone play them, but my guess is maybe an Ayaka or Risley dual carry team would make the most sense. As much as I'd like to recommend an Aloy team as well, Skirk's restriction blocking out someone like Kazuha does make this team, in my opinion, a little bit too difficult to play. You're going to have to get really good at that bomblet grouping. If you are good at it, then okay, there we go, we have another option. Now KQM seems to think that Nouvelette works, but that sounds like a singular Draconic stack, and that seems really lame to me. So unless you're fighting multiple auras, I'd personally recommend against that. When it comes to building Skirk, okay, there's one thing that's new, and that is that you could potentially use Moonweaver's Dawn. It's a gacha 4-star sword, it has high base attack percent, it gives her burst 40% damage percent at R5, and on top of that, look, Skirk doesn't have any energy, which means her burst gets another 56 damage percent at R5. So if you're a big burst Skirk player, you know, a quick swap player, this weapon might be the one for you. Otherwise, Azurelight remains her best in slot. Now it's worth mentioning that with a Skirk Escoffier rerun, the weapon banner is going to be the Azurelight and Symphonist of Sense. So if you're looking to play the Skirk team, getting either weapon should be a pretty major buff to that team. So depending on what 4-star weapons are on that banner, this might actually be one of the best times to consider getting her signature. For comparison, last time it was Skirk and Shunher, so that weapon banner was a bit scuffed. Meanwhile, I've been using Haran Futsu. It works great since everyone's got to use their skills anyway. It does give Skirk a bunch of normal attack damage percent, and using a very basic Skirk team with Layla, Rosaria, Yalan, and therefore overcapping crit rate, I have been seeing 43k personal DPS just as like a baseline. If you have Mistsplitters, that's great too. I don't have Mistsplitters, so I don't use that. The spreadsheet impact players seem to think the Calamity of Eshu and Finale of the Deep are basically as strong as the 5-star weapons like Haran though. In my experience in the Simulacrum, using the exact same basic team but with a level 80 Eshu because I never bothered to max it, I'm actually seeing 35k personal DPS, so I don't know, maybe if I actually do make it a level 90 Eshu, could be seeing 38k personal DPS, so it's close but not that close. Either way, I think if you have a 5-star weapon like Haran or Mistsplitter, just stick with that. If you don't, stick with Eshu or even the Fontaine Craftable. I don't think you need to go out of your way to get Azurelight, but that weapon banner is pretty nice, so maybe you might accidentally get it if you're trying to get Symphonist of Sense as well. For artifacts, there's only 3 artifact sets to think about. Deep Galleries is the Skirk set. It is her general best in slot set. It works in every Skirk team variation for both normal attack spam players and of course the alt quick swap Skirk players. If you're building her and let's say Varessa or Xiao, then of course this is really a good time to get this set. Also, it works well with crit rate weapons like Haran Futsu because you won't have to worry about overcapping crit rate, at least from this artifact set. But keep in mind, there is nobody else who can actually use this set today. Not Malwika, hell, not even Ayaka because it doesn't actually snapshot the burst buff. Maybe the Tsaritsa will be the only other character who can make use of this artifact set. We'll just have to see, because for some reason there's a stipulation in this effect where it can be triggered off-field, but Skirk famously doesn't have any off-field ult damage, so I really don't know what the dealio is here. According to the game itself, 87.2% of players are actually using the Deep Gallery set, which is surprising to me because 87.2% of content creators would swear up and down that you should otherwise just stick with Marechausse Hunter, because in the Skirk team, you're usually hopefully playing with Farina, and therefore Marechausse Hunter works because you have Farina. But Skirk's ult would suffer, so you probably should be playing normal attack spam Skirk instead if you're going to be playing a team like this with Marechausse Hunter. Also, you would be overcapping on crit rate very easily if you're running something like Haragapaka Futsu. Hell, I think even with Azurelight you might run into overcapping crit problems, so that might be a reason why a lot more players are using, of course, the Deep Galleries. Otherwise, there's Blizzard Straya, which is much more of a desperate option. It works fine against enemies who are freezable, but against bosses it's really touch and go. You can use it for the time being, I guess, while you're farming Deep Galleries, for example. For artifact stats, I think attack crit damage is the way to go. You get a ton of crit damage percent from either Deep Galleries or Farina. You can also get a ton of damage percent from something like Harangepaku Futsu. Cryo Cups, on the other hand, could be the way to go if you're using Azurelight, because Azurelight is a weapon that gives you a bunch of attack percent instead. We have simulacrums to test your pieces out now, so just hold on to them and figure out which one does better. And finally, we have Skirk's Constellations. Now, I don't think you need any of them. I haven't even thought about them since her release. Hell, as far as I know, it's just more damage, so if that's really what you want, there might be alternatives that you may want to go for first before you consider these constellations. But let's just go through them anyway, because with C1, the idea I think is that when you absorb a Void Rift, a giant hit of charge attack damage is summoned, but because it's charge attack damage, it's not affected by something like Deep Gallery, so just keep that in mind. C2 is an SA and a half of buffs, but I think the essential takeaway is you don't need Void Rifts anymore if you want to do hold skill into ult, because your hold skill will actually give just enough of her special energy in order to be able to use her ult without having to actually absorb those Void Rifts. If you actually use her ult, it does a lot more damage. But if you decide to use her special ult during her skill up time, then you actually get plus 70% attack instead. So that's actually quite nice for that normal attack spamming. C3 is ult levels, C5 is skill levels. Both are useful if you play both playstyles. The normal attack spammers will only care about her C5, the quick swappers will only care about her C3. C4 is an attack percent buff based on her stacking mechanic in her A4 passive. If you're going so far as to have her C4, you're probably only playing her specific freeze teams anyway, so you might as well just think of it as like plus 40% attack. And her C6 is the standard, does a ludicrous amount of damage constellation. It is a bit of an SA and a half as well, but I think the main takeaway is absorbing Void Rifts will make a new stacking mechanic, which then will be used by either your burst or your special mode. If you use her actual burst, the stacks that you're getting from those Void Rifts will then be used to give you additional burst attacks that can of course be affected by the Galleries effect. If you're using her special mode instead, her 3rd normal attack or her 5th normal attack in that normal attack chain will instead use those stacks to get some additional normal attack hits that can be buffed by the Galleries buff. And if she actually gets hit, then a stack can be used to, I guess, do a counter attack, but this is considered charge attack damage, so it does not get affected by the Galleries effect. I don't think I'll be the only one saying that you should probably get Escoffier before you even think about getting Constellations, especially with this upcoming banner. I certainly won't be bothering with her Constellations for a character that I don't really play all that much myself. No doubt I'll probably be playing her a lot more in the very near future with Stygian bosses that are of course going to be big free shells, but I guess until something particularly interesting happens in the future, I personally find myself having Skirk more benched than even someone like Navia or hell, Dahaya at this present moment. Let me know what you think about all of this in the comments below. How do you feel about Skirk? Perhaps you play more Skirk than I do, in which case, you know, what do you feel about the current state of Skirk? Are you still enjoying her as much as you used to? Do you maybe like the fact that nothing new is here for Skirk? Let me know in the comments. Otherwise, hope you guys enjoyed. If you like this video, hit that like button, subscribe for more Genshin Impact action, and until next time, I will see you guys later. Thanks for watching. Bye.
Symphony of cannon fire!
Just don't get stuck in the barrel.
Strike a punch!
Manifest!
Mining a glowing song! It is time to slay our foes with one
Fire incarnates! Pomp and ceremony! Good lord! Our performance has yet to conclude.
Say cheese! I dance for you, my dear!
Time to shine! Transfiguration! Ha! Do your master's bidding!
This is all getting rather dreary.